Okay. Next order of business is to call Jackie Pons up, Superintendent Jackie Pons, to talk about K-12 public schools. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you. I want to thank the State Board and Commissioners for having me here today to represent the Superintendents Association. And first, I'd like to thank Commissioner Bennett for participating in our regional superintendents meeting. We had, I think, 13 superintendents from this region, and he did a great job representing our state, and he took a lot of tough questions, and we really appreciated that. You know, a lot of times I've been up before the State Board on several occasions, maybe questioning something that was going on, but today I want to bring you a different message from superintendents. I want to thank you for your leadership on technology. As we move forward, superintendents have supported the transition to Common Core. We recognize the challenges with PART, but you've been a consistent voice for technology throughout the state, and we need that. And I would only give you encouraging words today to continue that battle, because one of the things we've had to learn as superintendents over the past few years is we have to run our systems more like businesses do. And we had to do that because of the resources that were available. And we would never, as a business, try to move forward on such an undertaking that we're going to as a state, and without the technology that's needed to implement this. So I just thank you for that, and I encourage you to keep up that fight, because it's very important. And I think, Shanahan, you touched on something I think is very important. I think a lot of people don't understand this, and we've got to make sure as superintendents that we articulate this message. And if we don't, we're really going to question ourselves later on. So I just wanted to start with that. A couple things on behalf of superintendents that I'd like to mention. Number one is the CAPE Act. I think is an opportunity. I want to compliment Senator Gates for his leadership on this. Senator Mumford, there's a whole group of senators and Legg that are doing this, but this has an opportunity to actually change the way we're educating students throughout the state. And I'm very excited about this for career readiness. We started one here in Leon County at Griffin Middle School with technology, and we've actually lined up Riley, Griffin, and Godby with this for industry level certification. So this is something that we should all be joined together on, and we should all be talking about it, because we're talking about creating meaningful job opportunities for our students, and something that is long overdue. In fact, this reminds me a little bit about our first school grading initiative, you know, when we started it and what has happened and how successful it's been in helping all children throughout the state. But I think this is something that's going to be at that level down the road. So I just wanted to mention that to you. You know, superintendents support the different pathways for graduation. We think it's very important. We've always supported a high level of accountability, high level of standards. But we also recognize that we need to make sure that we're also preparing our children for their future. And some of this industry level certification that I touched on can lead to career opportunities that are outside of things that we ever imagined. So we definitely support that. We definitely support the 30% requirement on the EOCs, you know, related to making sure that they count for 30% of the grade related to that. With algebra being a gatekeeper, that obviously you have to pass that EOC to move forward, but we do support that. I touched on the support as we transition for Common Core. We certainly appreciate our commissioners' leadership and the State Board's leadership on that. But as we move forward, again, I'm going to use this word one more time, let's make sure that we do have the technology. And I'm not sure what the presentation will be today. I know it'll be great from DOE, but it's not just technology based on...
I'm afraid you said that tongue-in-cheek.
No, I'm sure it's going to be great. But be careful about the number of computers that are in schools as far as the technology that's needed to implement this. That's something that we used to talk about that a lot as superintendents when we were making our technology presentations. This is about much more than that. The bandwidth that you need to do this, the wiring that we need statewide, and also the precious resources that we have. Being able to share those resources and making sure that we're getting as much as we can for the limited amount of dollars that we have. One of the things that's unique to Tallahassee is we're surrounded by a lot of smaller rural districts. You know, a lot of districts that do not have the budgets that we have and that have the same type of needs that we have. And one of the things we're trying to do is share our resources even with the other districts when it comes to school safety and the monitoring of campuses and things like this. So in technology, we've got to make sure that we get it right. But again, I know that you're committed with that. I salute you for that. Commissioner Bennett's talked quite a few times about that. One issue that's a concern to mid-level districts, and I'm going to touch on it today, is the development of EOCs, the development of other EOCs that possibly could be used, determining performance pay, determining what we're doing as an educational system. Recently, you've watched the dollars, the resources that are needed to develop an algebra EOC. In my district, it's estimated I'll have 100 EOCs to develop. While we have item banks that we may be able to go to get some of these, you have some of the larger districts that have their EOCs, the development. Anyway, we can share in that. A lot of those positions that were used for developing testing and are gone, you know, during the cutbacks that we had. We do not have the staff to implement that. So that's a very sensitive issue, is the development of these EOCs. And think about if you were superintendent in Leon County, you would have maybe 100 you'd have to develop. I think I have 2 people in that office right now. So that's going to be quite a challenge. The teacher evaluation system, Ms. Bradshaw touched on it, and I think as we move forward on that, there is a lot of concern out there. You know, when you look at the data, when you look at what's going on related to how teachers feel about the evaluation system, how principals feel about it. Obviously, we are looking forward to having DOE set these cut scores. You know, once the cut scores are set, we will certainly carry out our direction on that. There were a lot of comments even about, I think, the 97% range that was average, and we were even above that, and as Ms. Bradshaw noted. But I wanted to tell you, we proceeded with caution on that, and we were advised to proceed with caution because it was the first year, and this is a very important undertaking, and DOE has had a lot of positive information about this, about how important it is. And it's not like playing darts where you throw it on the board and it sticks and that's where you're going to be. So as these scores are set, we're prepared to implement them and we're prepared to move forward, but we really hope that that happens pretty soon. The Student Success Act 736, that's another area that, you know, I feel like it's important as we move forward to think about the role of technology in that, how important it is. And as I close, you know, to take any questions that you might have on behalf of superintendents, I'd also remind everybody that when we talk a lot about closing the achievement gap and how important it is, and Florida, as Commissioner Bennett showed today, we've done a lot of good things, but we still have work to do. We have a lot of improvement we still can make. But one of the #1 ingredients that I really believe in my heart, as a former middle school principal that had a blue ribbon school, I raised math scores one year 30 points, so I've done it just like Commissioner Bennett has. There's not a more valuable tool in closing the achievement gap than giving a child the technology that they need in order to accomplish what they need to accomplish. Some of these children have had extra class of reading, writing, and math for 6 years. But if you teach them to love to read and to enjoy to read and to understand how to read, and you give them the method to do that at any time they want to do it, you can close this achievement gap. And it's important. It's not cheap. Okay, it's not cheap, but you can do it. And I just wanted to mention that to you. And again, closing, thank you for your leadership on technology. We have a lot of new superintendents in this state, a lot of new ones. I mean, this is my 3rd term. And when I started out, I was the rookie. Now I look around, a lot of them are gone. But we have a lot of good ones. And superintendents support accountability. We support high standards. But we also support making sure that we get it right. Thank you for having me today, and I'll take any questions that you might have.
Superintendent, you mentioned the development of the EOCs. If this was a private business, I don't think we'd be tolerating 67 different initiatives to develop EOCs. Both the duplication and the differentiation between them, they're not all equal. So how can we fix this?
I think we could fix it by coming together and saying, and I'm not a big believer in forming task forces and committees all the time unless you give them a specific instruction. If you put a group together with those specific instructions that you expect a time period to come back with you how we're going to do this, and they're represented by some of the larger districts too, I think it can be done. The real issue on this, and this is where the rub is even for DOE, is if you accept this from another district, you got to make sure they're reliable. Because if you use them and they're not reliable, then you're going to end up in court, somebody's going to sue you. So I think we can do it if we come together and say, this is what we're going to do, this is our expected outcome from the state board, from the commissioner, and we have the people in the room that can accomplish this. And to your point, Mr. Padgett, that if we don't do this, you're going to have such a wide variety that one of the things that Florida has been recognized is for their consistency, their accountability. This is going to be the complete opposite of that.
So an EOC in Leon County is going to be different than in Miami-Dade County.
Unless I get Miami-Dade COCs and I'm able to
why
use
can't
them.
we do that? I mean, we've talked about this before, and I don't know who I'm addressing this to, but we're spending money, taxpayer money, right now in every district doing this stuff. And I'm very upset with doing that, and I'm also worried about the smaller districts that maybe have only one or two people that have the same job to do as Miami-Dade, with maybe I don't know how many people doing.
Well, I think to your point, with the leadership of our commissioner, if he has given the lead on this for DOE to own this and to go out with those group of people and to come back and say this is what we're going to do, and he gets those individuals together, it can be done. But I think the idea of us moving forward independently can be very dangerous, especially when you have such a difference in districts around the state.
Indeed, and we're moving from one FCAT, whether you like it or not, to 67 different EOCs, and that doesn't make any sense to me.
67 different EOCs for every class. So remember the principal, Barbara's principal, when we were down in Boca, and he had 753 EOCs. He told me that night we had a reception. I mean, I think we should have an action point here and get a commission and designate the commissioner and have them come back. And I mean, this could be both a cost savings, but also, to John's point, I think the smaller districts are very challenged. I mean, Jackie only has 2, and this is Leon County. Imagine, some of the rural counties, they probably have a half an FTE trying to do these EOCs, and they have to have an EOC for every course.
But what is our power of this board? And how much can this board do, or how much do the superintendents?
The responsibilities in the districts to have them prepared, but the state board could facilitate a commission by getting a representative sample from the commissioners or the superintendents, and say that they're going to be a task force, and ask the commissioner to lead that and come back and report to us. I mean, I think we should do that.
But I think that's a very, very urgent. I think we're spending millions on this, and we're going to end up with something we don't want.
Why is it that you have a superintendent's association and you have a problem?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that you can't come together and solve that problem?
I think we could if we're united with DOE on this, and DOE...
It's going to take the leadership of DOE.
I think it's going to take everybody's leadership. It's not just I'm not trying to blame DOE for this, obviously, but it's a perfect example of what we need to come together collaboratively on and say, we're going to do this. And in a period of time, we're going to accomplish this. And we're directed to do this, and not make a lot of excuses about it, just get it done.
Well, based on what I've heard from you here today, and John and Kathleen and others, I would ask the commissioner to take this. And
we should have a motion on behalf of the
Okay.
board so that there's actually action. The board members can vote, basically stating we recommend that the commissioner lead a delegation, a representative superintendents to come up with a very specific timeline, goal, resources needed, and path line for a shared data bank of EOCs.
Is that your motion?
Sounds good.
Is there a second?
Yes, second.
Do you have a,
Well, a friendly amendment. I think the objective is that we have one EOC per course statewide.
Again, I don't want to be, I think they should come back to us. Is that realistic?
All right. I'd vote for the motion, but I mean, that's my goal.
Right.
I second Kathleen's motion as a...
okay, any other discussion? Everybody in favor?
Right.
Aye. It's yours.
We'll take it gladly.
Yes, Ellen.
Thank you again, Jackie, for all the leadership you're providing to schools in this part of the world. Tell me, and you may have to guesstimate at this, but what percentage of your teachers, you were talking about technology, do you think in Leon County in this district are actively using technology in instruction?
Oh, I would hate to give a number. I'd say a very high level. The use of technology is definitely there, and we have that. But as far as thinking about when you get into park, the number of, and with the EOCs, the number of days testing for our students and the number of time and the framework that you need throughout your district is very, very important. In Leon County, you know, technology has been one of our goals. Our previous superintendent, Bill Mumford, who did an unbelievable job, it was something that he believed very strongly in, and we've carried it forward. And this county has a little bit of an advantage because during Superintendent Mumford's leadership and also during my tenure, we passed a half-penny sales tax, which gives us an advantage over districts that have not passed that. And during these budget reductions, the state board is very aware of this because of your leadership in these areas. But I think since 2007 in our district, we've probably lost close to $110 million of revenue. So you can imagine every area has been hit, you know, with personnel, and you had to start at the district, you know, you had to start there. And a lot of things have been put on hold related to wiring, related for infrastructure that you need. And even we've done a lot of that, and we had the half penny. So I can imagine what a district might look like that has not had these resources. So that's why this is so important, I think, as we move forward, that we recognize that this is, I fish a lot. I'm a fisherman, a deep sea fisherman. This is almost like, it's my passion, but you're going to laugh at this. It's almost like leaving to go on a 60-mile fishing trip, but we're not going to gas up the boat. We're going to hope we get there because we got a great place to fish. I mean, technology, this is the gate opener. You know that. You're the ones that are leading in that area.
Or worse yet, have half a tank and be stuck out at sea.
Yeah, same
Halfway
thing.
to the fishing
Yeah,
place.
Right. That's even a better analogy.
Yeah. Could you expound upon, as a superintendent of Leon County, what creatively you've done on the technology front? We mentioned, or someone mentioned E-rate earlier. Have you done anything in public-private partnerships for technology, or have you taken advantage of the E-rate?
Well, we've done a lot with public-private partnerships related to our compressed natural gas facility is one that we started here in Leon County. It was a dream that I had to go out and to change our fuel from diesel to compressed natural gas. When we ran out of money, what I did, and I would suggest this on technology, I was in my office thinking, I'm not going to be able to fund this. It's over. Then I said, what if we go to the private sector and let's see what they would do? Mm-hmm. And I went out there with a proposal, and I had no idea anybody would even respond. We had clean energy. We had 3 different groups that responded, and they actually built the facility for us. And we turned around and guaranteed to buy so much compressed natural gas from them, and we're actually paying the cost of the buses in our fuel savings on compressed natural gas. So I think in technology, we've not done anything like that.
Yeah.
And part of the problem, I think, again, is that if we all go out and independently negotiate, it's pretty weak, you know, and you're dealing with some companies that will not go out, and they're so powerful and so strong that they're not going to help you on the price end. Now, if we were doing it as a state, even though some superintendents wouldn't like that, they want the local control, but when it comes to this and the wiring for the entire state and what we're doing, we've got to make sure that if we're not going to do it statewide, that maybe superintendents go out with some of these private-public partnerships within the law and able to accomplish this.
Thank you.
What was, just from a number perspective, what was that compressed gas bus, you know, sort of savings to the district from a cost perspective?
It was 50% on fuel.
How much money?
That would be, golly, I would say it was close to $5,500 a vehicle.
Yeah. It's real money.
Real money.
Real money, so, if you add that up, and even that's something that I've been in front of the legislature talking about, how we could move our state forward on that, and these are the jobs of the future, and now we have a facility that not only we use, but the public sector, our private sector, they come in and fill up their vehicles. In our school district, we get royalties off whatever this company does throughout the state. So we're in a position to gather revenue. And that's an example of during these budget times. I tell you, one thing we did do as superintendents, you learn more about finance than you ever wanted to possibly know, because if you didn't, you couldn't survive.
Well, and it forces you to be creative and
It does.
entrepreneurial, and I applaud you for doing
Yeah,
that.
I
And
agree.
that's something that we should be sharing with the other districts as well.
I appreciate that.
Barbara?
Chair, as you've created this task force to look at EOC, can we somehow create this conversation, as we talked about a couple of months ago, and I think Kathleen had brought this up, that we get a better handle on where each of the districts are with technology, since you're, stating that some districts are more up to speed than others. So if we can get a better handle on that, I think that would be very helpful. Also, I hope next month you'll be here, because we are rolling out a workshop on reading literacy, starting at pre-K levels through VPK through third grade. And as you know well as a superintendent, that it all starts with reading. And you're addressing the fact that you want children to love reading. They will love reading if they have the foundation to read. And I think that's what we're going to be focusing in on, is are they all getting that right foundation and the right tools? So I hope you're here to be part of that.
I appreciate the invite, and Stu Greenberg, that started Just Read Florida, is now with our district, that came from DOE. But one of the things when it talks about early reading is, we had the mandatory third grade reading academy. We moved that to first grade in Leon County, because we felt like by the time you get to third grade, it was actually too late.
That's right.
I shouldn't say too late. It was a lot more difficult.
Well,
So what
You're going to hear that next month, that is part of the conversation. How do you make it happen prior to third grade?
And we did it in first grade, so we do a first
Excellent.
grade academy, and I think that's the direction we need to head.
Excellent.
Because that way, actually, you should even be doing it before then, but at least at first grade, so we can catch those students then and prepare them for what they need to be successful.
Perfect.
Jackie, I have to correct you, Stuart didn't start Just Read Florida.
Oh, I'm sorry. He was involved with Just Read Florida. I'm trying to give him a little more credit because he's working.
trouble if I did.
Yeah, okay.
I was gonna make that point.
We-
Can I ask
You know,
another
ca-
question? Go ahead.
Yeah, just before I want to leave that compressed natural gas, do you have that written down in a case study so that you could circulate it?
Absolutely.
I'd like to see it, and I don't know if the rest of the board would like to see it, but I think that's a great example of how we could share that around the state.
And I'll
Yeah.
get you the exact numbers, make
Yeah.
sure I've got them just right, everything to you, but this is a great thing, and I think you're going to see this spread throughout our state, because this company now is in other school districts, and
Yeah.
we're going to see that.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Where are the superintendents on the $2,500 per teacher in terms of pay for performance, or just a blanket check per teacher?
Be careful how I say this, because I'm representing the superintendents today. Obviously, we support $2,500 pay raise for teachers. I saw the first governor's budget when it first came to me the first time, and to see this budget, it looks a whole lot better, and we certainly appreciate that. Obviously, you've touched on this. Our teachers in Leon County, I think we went 4 years without any pay increase. So to be able to bring something to them at this time would be very, very important to me. Obviously, as we move forward, there's some other concerns that we would have related to, like, I'm just going to touch on it quickly, like, I would hope that benefits is part of the salary equation, because that's very, very important, because there's not a lot of...
It is, correct. Kim, it is? Yes, it is.
There's not a lot of movement on that front right now, and that's something that we really need to get on top of as we move forward, because each district's going to have a lot more of their employees now on their benefit rolls, and I haven't seen anything statewide to show what the anticipated cost increase that's going to be for districts, depending on that, and I think it's kind of an unknown territory. So As we move forward on that, we got to keep that in mind. Normally, benefits go 5 to 10%, depending on the districts, that type of increase, so we've got to see where that takes us with this part of the salaries, but it's something we got to think about as we move forward.
Yeah.
I have one last one. You mentioned industry certificates, and I'm a big fan of our middle and high school kids getting at least one industry certificate. If you were to look at your district, what would it take if you had an objective to double the number of industry certificates every year in your district from wherever you are now? What would it take? What are the barriers? What prevents you from having more industry certificates?
Well, I think the first thing is we've made a real commitment to move forward in that area. And as we move forward, I don't want to say every problem solved by additional resources, because we know that's not true. But I think making sure that all the students can take this pathway, because right now we have it, and limited to certain schools. I'd like to think one of the things that we need to do is to make sure that we have these opportunities in every one of our high schools, to make sure they're available for these students as they move forward, and also to change the dialogue, the way of thinking on industry certification. This is one of the most important certifications that students can get, and a public awareness campaign to let people know the type of jobs that you can get with this, the money that you can make, the resources that are available. And as our district, what we've done is we took our inner corridor right at Tharp Street out, and we took a Riley Elementary School, a Griffin Middle School, and Godby, and we lined them up. And we're using the industry level certification and start working on it even in elementary as they move forward to the middle school. I'm going to have to expand that. We're going to have that in every one of our high schools, to have opportunities for children to get this type of certification, and to do a cost analysis on what that's going to cost, and to make sure that we have the resources to make that happen.
Are you differentiating between what we might call universal certificates that are applicable in a variety of industries versus an industry specific? I mean, take Micro 069, which can be earned in middle school, which is applicable no matter where you go to work or whatever you're going to do, versus, let's say, a more limited culinary or something like that. Do you differentiate between the two?
Yes, we do, and we actually offer both. We're fortunate that we have Lively Technical Center. When I first was elected as superintendent, we had like 800 students there, and I think we're up now to about 2,800. So we've really increased those. But when I'm talking about the new pathways, I'm talking about high wage, high skill, the Microsoft that we're doing to try to increase that to the levels that they can move right on. And I do think one of the things President Murdaugh and I've talked about at TCC is making sure we're lined up too, that we have that articulation between our community college and our Lively Technical Center and our high schools, so we give these children these opportunities. And I think educating our children to make sure that they understand that this is an opportunity for them and what their outcomes could be by taking this. And at the same time, we don't talk about it because it's not a high-level certification, but even at Lively, we still offer welding, and we have welding classes that are full, $25 an hour, for students coming out of there, and everybody says, wow. So, those are things we need to keep in mind, too, which are outside of what you're talking about and don't quite apply to some of the legislation, but they are important for children in order to help them to compete in the workforce.
Great. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you all very much.